1. The Jedi walked into a trap. When Count Dooku kidnapped Obi-Wan and stashed him in a bug-infested stadium, the Jedi Council decided it was time to act, and fast. So they dropped into Geonosis with lightsabers drawn and clone support behind them, ready for war. Mace Windu led a strike team of Jedi directly into the arena, hoping to rescue Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme before things got worse. What happened next? Chaos. Hundreds of battle droids filled the arena. Droidicas, super battle droids, Geonosian soldiers overhead, and the Jedi spread out, outnumbered and falling fast. To be fair, there was coordination. Yoda commanded the new clone army from orbit, deploying lots gunships to extract the survivors and turn the tide. But still, the Jedi severely underestimated the scale of the trap. 1 second, Kit Fisto's grinning in the background. The next, he's body-checking a Geonosian off a pillar. Coleman Trevor gets turned into a highlight reel in under 5 seconds. And Ki-Adi-Mundi somehow survives, probably because he still had 12 more battles to yell in. This was supposed to be a rescue mission. It became the spark that lit the Clone Wars and exposed how unprepared the Jedi really were for large-scale warfare. 1 minute, they were peacekeepers. The next, they were generals in a galactic conflict they never wanted to lead. They brought lightsabers to a war and left with scars, questions, and a brand new clone army. 2. Palpatine kidnaps himself? It's not every day the galaxy's most dangerous Sith Lord lets himself get kidnapped on purpose. But that's exactly what Supreme Chancellor Palpatine pulled off during the Battle of Coruscant. The plan? Stage a fake kidnapping by General Grievous, lure Anakin and Obi-Wan into a flashy rescue mission, let the whole galaxy panic, then use the chaos to push emergency powers even further. Classic Palpatine move, right? And it works. Palpatine sits calmly in the command chair the entire time. Not chained up, not panicking, just waiting. Then comes the duel. Dooku loses both hands and his head, right in front of the Chancellor, who gives the kill order with zero hesitation. That wasn't improvisation. That was the plan all along. Anakin's busy having his regular, I might be a Jedi, but I'm really feeling Sith this morning moment. Obi-Wan's knocked out like it's episode 2 all over again. The only reason it works is because no one ever asks why Palpatine's rescue involved zero distress, full lighting control, and the most dramatic swivel chair posture since the Jedi archives were hacked. This wasn't a genius plan. It was an ego trip with bad insurance. 3. The Empire repeats its biggest mistake. The first Death Star got blown up by one farm boy with a targeting computer he didn't even use. You'd think that would be a wake-up call, but nope. The Empire went all in on round 2. This time, it's bigger, meaner, and has a partially exposed super laser dish that looks like a construction site hazard. But the biggest flaw? The arrogance behind it. The Empire was so sure of its power, it didn't expect anyone to get close. Palpatine even lets the rebels find out about it, intentionally leaking intel to lure them into a trap. He's not worried about sabotage, he wants them to come. The Empire puts its trust in the shield generator on Ondor, guarded by stormtroopers, fortifications, and deflector towers. But the rebels bring a wild card, the Ewoks, and while Imperial commanders dismissed them as primitive, they proved to be surprisingly effective with logs. Turns out you can build planet killers, but not log killers. Somewhere on Ondor, Wicket is still bragging about taking out a 74Z speeder bike with a rock. Meanwhile, the fleet engages above. And while the second Death Star is far more advanced and heavily defended, it's not invisible. The rebels exploit a chain reaction in the main reactor core. And once again, the Empire's ultimate weapon becomes the galaxy's biggest fireball. Same overconfidence, same explosion, different moon. 4. The Battle of Hoth. Hoth was cold, desperate, and full of bad ideas. But the worst? Digging trenches in front of Imperial walkers and hoping they'd hold. The rebels knew the Empire had heavy armor. They also knew the base had no planetary shield protecting the ground, just one covering the airspace to stop orbital bombardment. So what did they do? They set up surface-level defenses and hunkered down for a slow stomp toward disaster. The AT-ATs weren't fast, but they were brutal. Heavily armored, long-range blaster cannons, and nearly impossible to bring down with standard firepower. The rebels answered with airspeeders and tow cables. Clever, but only if the pilot survived long enough to pull it off. Doc didn't. The defensive layout wasn't entirely hopeless. There were echo stations and outposts spread across the perimeter. But against that kind of Imperial firepower, most of it felt like speed bumps. By the time the shield generator goes down, the ground team is falling back, and the rebels are scrambling to evacuate through the rear tunnels. The battle wasn't meant to be won, just delayed. Still, The whole setup played like a slow-motion loss. Hoth was a stall tactic, and it did its job. But tactically, it showed the rebellion still didn't have a solid answer for Imperial brute force. When your best case scenario is everyone run, maybe dig less and run sooner. 5. Leia's blind trust. Right after receiving the most dangerous intelligence in the galaxy, the plans to the Death Star, Leia decides to store them inside 2 droids and launch them into the desert. One of them talks too much, the other screams constantly, and neither of them have a weapon or a cloaking system. And it works, but only barely. R2 and 3PO crash on Tatooine, immediately get kidnapped by Jawas, thrown into a sandcrawler full of spare parts, and almost sold to the wrong farm, if not for a lucky malfunction in the other droid. R2 might never have ended up with Luke at all. And yes, of course, the plans that could destroy the Empire get handed off to the same guy who used to bullseye Womp Rats in a T-16 for fun. Destiny, right? Let's not forget. Leia also records a hologram plea and hides it inside R2, hoping Obi-Wan Kenobi is alive, on this planet and close enough for a teenage farm boy to find him on foot. That's not a plan. That's a space Hail Mary. And look, R2's a legend. He saved more Jedi than Yoda's ghost. But at the time, he's just one droid in a sea of junk, carrying data that could literally end the Empire. One bad buyer, one scavenger crew, one Tusken Raider with bad aim, and boom! No rebellion. This was Star Wars' version of hiding your passwords inside a Roomba and hoping it finds the Wi-Fi. 6. Grievous retreating. General Grievous had the looks, the blades, the rep. A towering cyborg Jedi killer who collected lightsabers like trophies. But when things turned against him, he had a habit of slipping out the back door, fast. In the Battle of Coruscant, he kidnaps Palpatine, then flees once Obi-Wan and Anakin arrive. In the Malevolence arc, he ditches ship when it's about to explode. On Kamino and Saldikami, same deal. He retreats often, sometimes to regroup, sometimes just to avoid capture. But he's not always a coward. He fought hard on Geonosis. He commanded invasions, held territory, and faced Jedi in duels. He was dangerous. He just also knew when to cut losses and vanish into hyperspace. That strategy frustrated the Republic constantly. Jedi commanders had to chase him across the galaxy, while Grievous played hit and run like a master tactician with 4 arms and a kill count. His escapes weren't always blunders, but they weren't always glorious victories either. Grievous didn't win every fight, but he sure survived a lot of them. 7. Yoda vs. Palpatine. Order 66 just wiped out the Jedi. The Republic is gone. The galaxy's falling apart. So what does Yoda do? He sneaks into the Senate building, Palpatine's actual lair, for a one-on-one duel without backup, exit strategy, or even a game plan beyond hope this works. Yoda knows Sidious is the Dark Lord they've been hunting for years. He also knows Sidious controls the Senate, the clone army, and half the galaxy's fear. And yet, the Grand Master of the Jedi decides to fight him inside a chamber where Sidious holds all the power, both political and tactical. The duel is epic, no doubt. Senate pods flying, force lightning everywhere, full-blown wizard war. But in the end, Yoda loses. He gets thrown across the room, slides down a wall, and quietly admits defeat. Then he crawls into an escape tunnel like he's late for a subway. And that's it. No rematch, no regrouping, just exile. Yoda doesn't try to rally survivors, doesn't warn the public, doesn't even try to take Palpatine down another way. He just gives up, heads to Dagobah, builds a swamp hut, waits for Luke Skywalker and the next shot at redemption. If defeats you fear, maybe pick a better arena than the Emperor's office. 8. Droid army controlled by a ship. The Separatists built one of the biggest armies in galactic history. Millions of battle droids, tanks, droidicas, spider walkers, and then connected them all to one single floating router in the sky. In the Phantom Menace, we see it clearly. Destroy the control ship, and the entire army shuts down instantly. That's not just a design flaw, that's a full system-wide off switch. And while later droids models had more independence, the early ones absolutely didn't. Even during the Clone Wars, central control systems were still in use during some battles. Risky, but effective if protected. You'd think after Naboo, someone at Techno Union HQ would say, hey, maybe let's not tie all our droids to one exposed ship, but no. The vulnerability showed up again in different forms. Not every engagement followed the same script. Kamino and Ryloth weren't about control nodes, but when droid command hubs were in play, the Republic knew what to target. And don't forget, this is a military created by Sith Lords. Their weakness wasn't a glitch, it was part of the bigger plan. Imagine building the galaxy's biggest army, then tethering it to one space modem and hoping no one trips over the cord. 9. Finn's strategy. In the final act of The Last Jedi, the Resistance is pinned down inside a busted rebel base on Crate. The First Order rolls up with a battering ram cannon, basically a mini Death Star laser mounted on skis. So the Resistance decides to fight back, but Finn goes all in. He peels off from the group and flies straight at the cannon, head on, planning to sacrifice himself and stop the beam from firing. No thermal detonator, no backup, just hope, bravery, and a prayer that his body slamming into the barrel would somehow save the day. Rose crashes into him at the last second, saving his life and delivering a line about fighting for love, not hate. Great sentiment. Still a tactical mess, because now they've got 2 downed ships in front of a cannon and 0 effect on the enemy's advance. Heroic? Sure. Emotional? Yeah. But smart? It's not clear. The cannon still fires, the Resistance still retreats, and nothing really changes. Except that Finn almost died for a plan no one agreed to. You know it's a bad plan when the best case scenario is getting vaporized slightly closer to the laser. 10. Holdo's leadership plan. After Leia's injured, Vice Admiral Holdo takes command of the Resistance fleet in The Last Jedi. The situation? Dire. They're being tracked through hyperspace, running low on fuel, and the First Order is right behind them. So what does Holdo do? She goes full mystery box. No briefings, no updates, no, hey, here's how we're not all going to die. Just vague looks, ominous silences, and leadership by eyebrow raise. Poe, hot-headed, yes, but also a ranking officer, asks for a plan. She shuts him down. The crew starts panicking, still nothing. So naturally, mutiny happens because when your ship is dying and your captain's giving off trust me energy without any actual reasons, people tend to panic. Now, to be fair, Holdo does have a plan. She's secretly evacuating to a nearby planet using sensor jamming transports, waiting for the First Order to overlook them. Great, but by not telling anyone, she almost gets the entire mission ruined. Poe blows the lid off, DJ sells them out, and the First Order starts targeting the escape ships. It gets worse. Her legendary moments, the lightspeed kamikaze into the First Order dreadnought, was amazing. But again, not planned. It was a last-minute call after everything else fell apart. Cool visual, terrible chain of command. Holdo wasn't a bad tactician. She just forgot one crucial detail. You have to communicate, especially when you're flying a fleet full of desperate people. Imagine being in a war, and the person in charge gives you silent treatment while the walls are literally exploding. 11. Sending only 2 Jedi to Naboo. A full Trade Federation blockade? Send Qui-Gon and his intern. The Trade Federation surrounds Naboo with warships, jams communications, and threatens full-blown invasion. So what does the Republic do? They send 2 Jedi. No backup, no fleet, just Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi in one ship with 0 context and 0 prep. They don't even go undercover. They walk right onto the ship, announce they're Jedi, and then act surprised when the Nemodians try to gas them to death. That's not diplomacy, that's a trap waiting to happen. And after barely escaping the assassination attempt, what's the next move? Land alone on the planets, sneak through swamps, and ask a clumsy exile Gungan for directions. Forget reinforcements, they don't even have a working map. Meanwhile, Queen Amidala's being kidnapped, Naboo gets invaded, and the Senate argues itself in circles. Palpatine, of course, is thrilled. Everything is going exactly to plan. This wasn't just a bad tactical decision, it showed how far the Republic had drifted from actual governance. The Jedi got sent as band-aids for a collapsing political system, and Naboo was the test run for everything that came after. 2 Jedi walking into a planetary siege isn't strategy, it's denial in a robe. 12. Obi-Wan dies on purpose. Inside the Death Star, Obi-Wan Kenobi squares off against Darth Vader for the first time in years. It's personal, it's tense, and it's one of the most iconic duels in the saga. But just when things start to heat up, Obi-Wan stops fighting. He sees Luke across the hangar, smiles, raises a saber, and lets Vader strike him down, vanishing in an instant, his body gone, only robes left behind. This wasn't random. He told Vader what would happen, he warned Luke, and he knew this moment would mean more as a sacrifice than a victory. The Falcon crew escapes while Vader watches Obi-Wan's cloak fall. The moment throws him off, not for long, but enough. The mission succeeds. Obi-Wan's voice lives on in Luke's head from that moment forward. It's meaningful in the Force, and tactically, it gives the crew the edge they need to get out alive. Obi-Wan's final strategy, become more powerful by disappearing and teach Luke from the shadows. 13. The shiny armor. Kaminoans designed the clone army with precision, discipline, and the subtlety of a walking spotlight. Bright white plastoid armor looks great on parade, less great when you're sneaking through a jungle, sneaking up on droids, or try not to get shot. Whether it's Geonosis, Umbara, or even Citadel missions, clones are often deployed into high-risk zones, wearing gear that reflects light like they're advertising their own position. You've got squads moving through pitch-black corridors or shadowy forests, and all you see are chrome helmets and chest plates catching every glint like a lightsaber hilt at noon. To be fair, they were specialized units, recon troopers, ARF units, and shadow variants, all adapted for different conditions. But on a lot of missions, especially in open combat, clones still wore standard issue white armor even when stealth would have helped. Fives could outthink a Jedi, but even he couldn't outshine his shoulder plates in a thunderstorm. And let's be real, the Umbara campaign didn't need traitors, it needed a dimmer switch. And sure, clone troopers are elite, they make it work. But sometimes it felt like visibility wasn't much of a concern, as long as they could hit the target before the target hit back. Covert ops in the clone armor? It's like hiding a Star Destroyer behind a tree. There you have it, some of the worst military moves in a galaxy that's supposed to be far, far smarter. Which one broke your brain the most? And did we miss a strategy so bad it deserves its own trilogy? Let us know. Or don't. Just don't command a droid army with one router.